Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said that the Israeli leadership was preparing for a political alternative to a military confrontation in the north. However, he reiterated that Israel was preparing for a wider conflict. Now, this comes as Iran's UN mission said that if Israel embarks on a full-scale military aggression in Lebanon, an obliterating war will ensue. Iran's UN mission said on social media, which is the platform X, and I'm quoting here, albeit Iran deems as psychological warfare the Zionist regime's propaganda about intending to attack Lebanon. Should it embark on full-scale military aggression, an obliterating war will ensue. All options, including the full involvement of all resistance fronts, are on the table. This report came only days after the Iranian Foreign Minister Ali Bagheri Kani was told by his German counterpart that Iran needed to help prevent a further escalation of the situation in the Middle East. Meanwhile, backing the Hezbollah regionally, analysts say is the so-called axis of resistance. The axis of resistance refers to the pro-Iranian regional network's opposition to the United States and Israel, which means the members can choose any number of regional targets in addition to attacking Israel from the locations they are based in, alone or in concert. Meanwhile, the U.S. Embassy in Beirut is repeating its warnings for American citizens to avoid traveling to Lebanon over increasing security threats. In a security alert, the U.S. Embassy reminded American citizens to strongly reconsider travel to Lebanon, saying the security environment remains complex and can change quickly. Moreover, the amphibious assault ship, the USS Wasp, entered the eastern Mediterranean Sea this week. The Wasp has the capability to assist in the evacuation of civilians if full-scale war breaks out between Israel and the Iranian-backed militant group along the Lebanon border. A second U.S. official said the rotation is similar to the U.S. sending the USS Bataan assault ship into the waters around Israel shortly after Hamas's October 7th attack. The vessel stayed for months in the eastern Mediterranean to help provide options and try to contain the conflict.
Sailors, a nuclear reactor, and an arsenal of missiles used to counter.
For more on this, we are joined by Glenn Diesen, who is a professor of international relations, University of Southeastern Norway. Glenn, my first question to you. First up, just tell us, what do you broadly read of the situation? What is your analysis of this?
Well, there's been a risk of this war spreading for some time now, and we've seen over the past few weeks that the skirmishes between Israel and Lebanon keeps heating up. I don't think either side would like a full-scale war, but there's obviously a sense of need to deter the opposing side. But given that the massacres or even genocide in Gaza continues, it's very likely now that this conflict will actually spread. Now, whether or not the Israelis will march into Lebanon, it's still unclear. This could merely be an effort to put pressure on Hezbollah before suggesting a solution, such as not having Hezbollah in the southern parts of Lebanon. But given that this is not acceptable to Hezbollah, my guess is that we're probably moving towards a larger war in which at least Hezbollah and Israel engages in much more intense conflict.
So when you speak of this spreading out, what are the chances that Iran will be directly drawn in the case of conflict between Israel and Hezbollah?
Well, I think it's a possibility, but I don't think Iran wants to get directly involved. I think there's been many indications already that Iran would like to deter Israel. In other words, when it, for example, bombs its embassy, the Iranians they feel that they have to respond. But as we saw during that time, even though the response was very measured and on both sides in terms of neither side wanting to make this escalate into a huge war. When I say both sides, I mean between the US and Iran. I think the Israelis would be quite interested to get the US further drawn into this conflict to be able to pursue a military solution.
Glenn, very quickly, with the Iranian election process currently underway and with the results that we saw today, do you think that will have any bearing on the future of this particular escalation? With either candidate getting probably the maximum number of votes?
No, I think that the situation will dictate what Iran does. I think that if a war breaks out, the direct war between Hezbollah and Israel, I think they will lean on a lot of their allies in the so-called axis of resistance. So be it partners in Iraq, Syria, Yemen. But I don't think anyone in Iran really wants to enter this war themselves, and this is something that the United States would also like to avoid. So yeah, I see this as being unlikely, but it's definitely a possibility, one that's growing as well as if there's an open war between Hezbollah and Israel.
Thank you so much, Glenn Deason, for your perspective on this. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.